why I'm not buying Madden 24. Well, they give it to me for free. It is what it is. Listen, I know you got clickbaited a little bit, but it's true. I'm not buying it. I will be playing it. There will be a franchise series, of course, team revealed soon, and there will be rebuilds. It's everything you expect from me at this point. I know YouTubers come out here, they flex fancy new cars and big houses. I'm going to flex the $60 on you, or 70, whatever it is now, for Madden. But yeah, so I did come out with a video a couple weeks, maybe a month ago now, on the franchise deep dive, and I was happy about it, right? I thought, hey, they've made a lot of good changes that are going to make me more excited to play in Madden 24. It obviously comes down to the game actually functioning, as it did not in 23. And of course, everyone who has never seen the channel before, as I've been highly critical of Madden in the past, comes out and says, hey, you're a shill.
How much is EA paying you to say this?
Like, listen, I am allowed to be excited. And when they do good things, I'm going to be like, man, that's a good thing. I might be like, well, this should have been in the game already. Like, that doesn't get anywhere, right? Now, Madden 23 was a broken mess, no question. Like, here my coach is Gene Dangus, obviously, Giants franchise. You back out, the coach is going to say R. Reese. And when I was trying to actually fix the file with all the crashes and stuff you guys might remember, there are multiple head coaches linked to the same team. That doesn't make any sense, but that's what happened. And you can't change any league setting. You can't change any slider, or you will get backed out and quit out of the league. So what's going to end up happening is just showing you how broken Madden 23 was. Now, none of that's going to save. It's going to quit me out. This has happened a billion times, right? But Madden 23 definitely could have been a better game if it was actually functioning and actually working. Gameplay was frustrating. They've apparently made a couple of really nice changes that should make the gameplay a lot better in 24. Will it actually happen? We don't know for sure. Like, this video is going to be talking about some things that I wish were in Madden franchise. Everyone always asks for a Madden wish list from me, but they start working on the game so many months in advance, and it's pretty much whatever they're going to do is done by January or February, pretty much. And it's not completely finished, but at least the skeleton of the game, the framework for what's going to happen, is already done months in advance of it releasing. And then it's, tweaks and stuff to get it where they want and then properly working, although that has not worked as much as you'd like in recent years. But there are some things that, even with the added 6 trade slots and more generational players and making the draft more fun, there are some things that they absolutely need to add into Madden franchise mode that will make the overall experience a lot better. And I asked on Twitter, and I tweeted out, or I asked on X. It's X now. It marks a spot of where the dumbest people on the planet reside, including myself. Nah, that's TikTok. But a lot of you guys had great feedback and great responses. We're going to be going over some of those today. The first one for me is something I've been asking for a while, which is relocation expanding. And that is, I'm choosing my word carefully there, expanding, because the next step to making Madden franchise more replayable is not just the option to relocate. And they've added more relocation teams and relocation jerseys and whatever. That's cool, but it really doesn't get to be where it needs to be until they add expansion, where you can bring another team into the NFL. And EA does have hurdles to clear when dealing with Madden, because the NFL allows or disallows everything. So some things it just might not allow for one reason or another. It might be stupid, and the NFL might not want to add in fake teams into their league in a simulation game. I know that sounds super dumb. That could be the case. But expansion is the true next step in the relocation umbrella, where you can completely start fresh, do an expansion draft, so teams around the league would protect players, and you'd be able to pick unprotected players using the expansion draft rules that we've seen with the Texans and the Ravens and all these expansion teams, the Jaguars. We would use that rule set, what the NFL currently has, and build an expansion team. Now, that leads into my second point, which a number of different players came out and said. And I think RBT's point also kind of goes into this, which is custom out-of-division schedule and ability to realign conferences and divisions. That goes along with expansion, because with expansion comes problems with the divisions. If you bring in one team, well, the NFL is at the perfect balance of 32 teams, right? There are 4 teams in 8 divisions, and what if you brought in a 33rd team? Well, everything gets screwed up. But they've been in places before where, divisions have been crazy. Like the NFC East, for example, pre-2002, I want to say, had the Cardinals in it along with the Cowboys, and I think there were 6 teams in the division. It looked completely different. The Arizona Cardinals were in the NFC East. Now, if you thought Dallas was crazy, the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East, the Phoenix, Arizona Cardinals were in the NFC East with the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington, whatever they were called back in the day, I don't know. But adding the ability to just give us an option to do that and change the divisions if we wanted to, the way you could in NCAA, I think would add more replayability. And as I was getting into, a lot of people suggested that custom team would be a very good thing to add. And I would completely agree with that because, it's cool to expand or not even expand, but relocate and choose the London Black Knights for the 8th time or whatever it is. But the actual opportunity to make your own team, right, gives the user a lot more creativity and replayability, and that's just something that is not in the game and has not been for a while. Create a team used to exist. Now, nowadays with all the online stuff and the create an emblem, like I've been playing Black Ops 1 on stream recently, twitch.tv/Bengal, and the emblems that you could create on Black Ops 1 are insane. Now, if it's not a dick and boobs, it's a swastika, it's so many bad things that shouldn't be in the game that just made it through. They didn't think it through, I guess, what people were going to do. Like, oh my goodness, I hope they don't do what they're going to do, and they did it, and it's a disaster. Madden, and especially the NFL, does not want that to happen, but how do you create the safeguards to stop that stuff from happening? Because I think they do want to go into a direction where they create a team and create a logo and create whatever, but they don't want, whichever guy tweeting out the usual Madden hate video or whatever it is with, oh my goodness, I can't believe Madden supports Nazi propaganda, and it's the SS on the field with swastikas going crazy. I know this is a lot of crazy stuff, but like that's a realistic possibility, and I saw a lot of it in Black Ops 1 recently, and I'm not making it up, and that's a real possibility. People are crazy. You'd see the N-word flying around without question if they don't have the proper safeguards, and there are like so many different safeguards within the actual draft class where you can't even do the last name Hendon Hooker, right? But if you're allowing create a team, unless you have a preset list of logos, like if people are making their own logos, how do you stop them from doing crazy things? I don't know. That's another issue that's not for me to figure out. But that franchise guy makes a very good point. And he says that proper edge terminology and compensatory draft pick should be in Madden 24 franchise and beyond. This is a no-brainer. And it's pretty embarrassing at this point that Madden has not made this change, where pretty much everybody, it used to be like advanced terminology. What the heck is an edge rusher? I know a defensive end. Is that what you mean? But an edge rusher is a defensive end in a 4-3, someone that plays on the edge, and that could be as far wide as the 9 technique down to like maybe even the 5, but outside defensive line players, right? And going into the draft, you still have outside linebackers that are both off-ball players and on-ball players, aka pass rushers. And it's kind of amazing that they haven't implemented that into the draft. When everyone seems to be a draft junkie nowadays, they are edge rushers. That's how we qualify those guys. They are players that come off the edge, and the fact that we're still paying outside linebackers who are pass rushers the same way as we'd pay an inside linebacker in contracts is extremely frustrating, because the off-ball players are not nearly as valuable as the pass rushers that play on the ball. And especially in the draft, the fact that it's not an edge and you have to deal with these guys as, oh, it's an outside linebacker or Is that an inside linebacker? Some people don't know the game. And maybe, oh, what's an edge? Figure it out, right? We're in 2023 now, going into Madden 24. You got to know what an edge rusher is if you're a football fan. And I know the casual fan still probably doesn't, like super casual, but most people do. And then the people that are going to be playing a franchise mode do. And the people that don't, doesn't really matter anyway. If you don't know what a corner is, you can see what their most important ratings are, and that factors in to what they actually do well. Like, you pull up a Dory Jackson, it's not going to show you finesse moves, right? It shows you their core attributes, and it pretty much lists them almost in order of what's most important. You see speed, of course, but man coverage, zone coverage, and then play rec, acceleration, agility, press. Those are the most important things. You're not going to have an edge rusher and see finesse moves or power moves. I can't figure out what that means because it says edge instead of left end or left outside linebacker. I don't know, a bit of a ramble there, but I think that's a really much needed change to make the franchise mode more enjoyable. A realistic sim engine is also super important. I mean, if you guys have played any franchise in Madden 23 and games previous, you know that the same playbooks are going to result in the best results, right? And of course, in real life, playbook is super valuable, which is coaching, right? The Chiefs are really, really good for a reason. But to me, at least, in Madden franchise mode, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the same team, regardless of personnel and the same playbooks, to produce unbelievably well. Like, the Bucs with Tom Brady is one thing, right? That team's going to be super, super effective at throwing the ball. Now, they're going to throw the ball a lot because they have Tom Brady, and this is what we've seen with Bucs playbook. However, when a quarterback like Dorian Brooks is in the mix and he's a 71 overall, and he goes out and throws for over 5,000 yards in his rookie year, you go, something's probably not right here. That just would not happen. You know how I know? No rookie quarterback has ever thrown for close to 5,000 yards. And it's so playbook dependent. That's why the Bucs quarterback, whoever it is, always has a really good shot to win MVP because they're throwing the ball so much. And if you play running back for the Panthers, you have a really good chance to win Offensive Player of the Year purely because the game is set up for Christian McCaffrey, or the playbook is, right? So regardless of ability, and Christian McCaffrey's still the running back here in Giants franchise, but regardless of ability, they're going to come out and rush for about 1,500 yards and also catch for about 600, 700, or 1,000 yards sometimes. It is insane. And I personally don't want to see the same teams in the Super Bowl every year. You know what what's a team that I haven't seen in the Super Bowl in quite some time, maybe my entire lifetime, come to think of it. I've never seen the Dallas Cowboys play in a Super Bowl. And now they could have when I was like the year I was born. It's a possibility. But I've never seen the Cowboys play in a Super Bowl. Yet, funny enough, if you play Madden franchise, the Cowboys are in the Super Bowl every year. Pretty much. It's the Cowboys. It's the Chiefs. You'll see the Panthers in there. You'll see the Browns. You'll see the Bengals. Now, the Bengals, to their credit, Chiefs obviously have made Super Bowls. But it is the same teams and the same playbooks with the same results every single year. Here's a Cowboys-Patriots Super Bowl, right on cue. Now, for me personally, and then the Bengals in the AFC Championship, of course. For me personally, I think in a franchise mode, it makes way more sense to have less of a stress on the playbook, especially when the user's coming in, right? And they're maybe running their own playbooks that don't simulate quite as well. I think it makes more sense for a higher roster overall to result in better results. And if I have a 90 overall team and the two worst playbooks in the game, I still think I should beat the team with the best two playbooks in the game and an 80 overall team 9 times out of 10. And I know that seems crazy, but guess what? The best team in the league wins like 9 times out of 10 in that matchup. And there's a reason that the Eagles were in the Super Bowl last year, right? It wasn't because they're necessarily the best coach team, and they are a well-coached team, of course. We can say that because of the results. But they have the best offensive line, and part of that is due to coaching, don't get me wrong. But we're saying from a playbook standpoint, the play calling, right? They have the best offensive line. They have 2 unbelievable receivers and a tight end, a quarterback that was an MVP candidate last year, one of the best defenses in the league that put up record-breaking sack numbers. That's a good team. Now, the Eagles, I don't ever really see do well in franchise mode. Never really see it happen. And here in 2025, they didn't even make the playoffs. And this is a really, really good team on paper. And I know they're still going to be really good because I'm using the offseason rosters. And when you go to the Eagles here, the Eagles are still going to be unreal. You have A.J. Brown, who's a 97. Goddard, who's in the 90s. Milato's in the 90s. Reddick is a 90. Josh Sweat is near a 90. Slay's right near 90. They brought in Patrick Queen. Now, they did lose a quarterback, so maybe that's a reason. No Jalen Hurts anymore. Maybe they did better in 2024. I can't remember. But it just seems a little bit crazy every year how the best team, it doesn't matter how good your overall is, which should quite a bit in my opinion in franchise, but it just doesn't really seem to matter. Because we have the Packers and the Ravens in the Super Bowl here. Dak Prescott won MVP because the Cowboys playbook is so overpowered. Anyway, super long-winded way to say, please fix the sim engine. Make the better overall teams matter a little bit more, please. Got a couple good ones in here. We have licensed coordinators in the UI like 2K, My NBA. I mean, that they don't need to copy what 2K is doing. I know the trade finder is pretty hard for people to find, but it does exist when you're actually trying to make a trade. They could do a better job of making that more noticeable, making it its own tab maybe. Licensed coordinators, I think, is kind of a must. You know, it's weird that, you know, you can have Brian Daboll as head coach, right? But Wink Martindale's not the DC. It's like Steve Johnson or whoever fake guy that it is, right? Which is a little dumb. I don't know what they can do in order to change that, but you got the resources to change it. You got to go out and make that happen. I know it changes a bit, but you got to be able to do it. I think coaching like carousel would be really good, because if Gene Dangus doesn't do so well for the Giants, you know what should happen is I should have the opportunity to be fired and then get more job offers. Not just pick a team. Oh, I want to be the head coach of the Bengals now. That's cool, right? Especially when I'm in franchise and I want to do a bunch of different things. But there also should be a way to actually play out the career of a coach if you're going to choose a coach. Because I'll tell you, when Joe Judge got fired from the Giants, I'm going to keep going back to Giants references, he didn't just say, yeah, I'm the head coach of the Eagles now. He got on to the Patriots as a special teams coordinator, or in some capacity, some role. I know he was a special teams coach before going to the Giants. I think he went back to the Patriots. I'm not sure he was immediately rehired as special teams coordinator, but he was in some role. And that's kind of what happens. And I'm not saying it has to be that specific, because if you're going to be fired of a team, you probably don't just go out and get an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator job. You probably become an analyst or a positional coach and then work your way back up in a lot of cases. And then sometimes it does happen where the head coach is fired and they become a DC or OC somewhere, but it's a little more rare. But it'd be nice to, like how we had in NCAA, have the option to do a coaching carousel and pick from different job offers from job openings. I think that makes a lot more sense. And there are some small things that are just like quality of life. Like the ability to retire jersey numbers would be cool and more immersive in my opinion, even though it doesn't come up all that often. I think you actually can pick your spot in fantasy drafts in Madden 24. I want to say I heard that. This has some great stuff. Gabe says college stats of incoming prospects. I think they could just like randomize anything and you could base it off conference. I don't even think it would be hard. Like if you have a, like, I don't know, we'll say a Mountain West QB, right? They might like throw for crazy numbers if they're at Fresno State or something. And I'd be okay with that. You know, these small school guys putting up better numbers than SEC guys. But you could, you know, kind of have a window generator based off of the conference. So if you have, okay, this guy's going to be the 10th overall pick or thereabout, and he's a running back, right? If he played in the SEC, you could just easily go, okay, 1,500 to 2,000 or 2,200 yards or something like that, randomize it, pick a number, boom. And that works for every position. It might take a little bit of work to set that up, but just base it off of conference results from like those specific draft picks and then kind of expand the window. If that makes sense, I think that would be kind of a no-brainer to make these guys feel real. I went back recently, I did a video on Madden 25 going over old draft stories. You could see it on the screen, and you were able to see pictures of these players, and it made everything feel a whole lot more real. And I don't mean this. I don't need to go to the like weird face combinations again, but I mean this. The draft stories, you can actually see the player pictured in their college uniform. And there are no logos on here. You'll notice that, right? There's no Texas Longhorns logo for the Texas player. Yet they have Texas. They have the burnt orange there. They have the white helmet. That's clearly Texas's uniform. I don't absolutely need the Texas Longhorn logo on the side. Hook 'em, by the way. I don't need that on the side to make it an immersive experience. But what I need is to see the guy pictured, see the team's colors, and even if you don't have the proper licensing, which I think you would with NCAA, right? But even if you don't have the proper licensing to put it into the NFL Madden video game, do something like this where I can actually see the player. It makes them feel more real. It's like I'm drafting an actual player as opposed to drafting just a name and from the school. That doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. And of course, historic draft classes is kind of a no-brainer. One of my most popular videos on my entire channel is when I reset the NFL to a certain year, and I've done this multiple times, and I myself, and with the help of other people in some cases as well, recreated every draft class for each year. So if I reset to 2010, either me or helpers that I had made a 2010 draft class, and 2011 and 2012, so on through the actual year that it was. And I'll tell you what, would save me a whole heck of a lot of time if Madden would just throw those in. And I know 2K does some similar things. We'll talk about historic draft classes. 2K does historic teams. Yeah, give me the opportunity to play as the 1990 Giants if I want to. Super Bowl winning teams you get added in, or just super popular, super like important teams. Like everyone loves the early 2000s Falcons because Michael Vick was so amazing at the time, and you know Warwick Dunn was a beast. But it really, you'd be picking that team for Michael Vick, right? With the Giants, you could get Lawrence Taylor in there, and it can be just guys that you have the license to use. I get that it's a little bit more difficult with 53-man rosters in the NFL. But if you have licensing to use these guys in Ultimate Team, let us franchise and play now, guys. Use some of these old school teams. And even if, you know, you have Lawrence Taylor, 99 overall edge, but let's say you don't have the license to use Bill Sims or whatever, you could do, you know, QB number 11 or just any random quarterback. But at least let us have some of the players on those historic teams if you have the license to them. I think that would be at least a step in the right direction. I think the last thing we'll touch on, this is a great point from Jordan here. The Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, and interviews with prospects. This would make the draft experience a little bit more immersive, or a lot more, because they used to reference the Senior Bowl in like Madden 25. They'd call it the College All-Star Game, which that works for me, right? If you don't have the licensing for the Reese's Senior Bowl, which, get it, by the way. Go all out. Make the game mode better in any way. I'm all for it. And I think just making it feel more real improves the mode, clearly. And having these college all-star games like the Senior Bowl and the East-West Shrine game, that makes it feel more real. And if you have interviews with prospects, there used to be, you know, interviews when I would do the 2K My Career like 10 years ago. You would have set questions that you would ask and answer. And I know that they can do something similar because they have the cutscenes in whatever it's called. I don't even remember it. It's not Long Shot. It's Face of the Franchise. And now Superstar Mode. We'll see what that's like. But just, yeah, give us opportunity to ask these guys questions, see how they answer it. And in my head, it's very easy. You have preset questions. And if it's the same 5 or 10 every time, I don't care. I really don't. But give them different answers based on their personality type. And you say personality type, I don't really see that. Like, what is that? Well, every player, believe it or not, who really knows what it does, but they have different personality types. Like Josh Jacobs, for example, is charismatic. So charismatic would answer those questions differently than, let's say, than AJ Terrell might, whose personality type is spontaneous. Ooh. Does he like long walks on the beach too? That's interesting. Or Colton Miller, whose personality type is also charismatic. Well, you get what I'm saying. I think team leader is one. I kind of figured Devontae Adams would be one of those that we looked at already. He's a team player. supposedly. So there you go. So these guys would answer questions differently. Charismatic might say, when asked, are you the best player in the draft? Or like, what are you going to do at the next level? Do you care what team drafts you? Devontae Adams might say, hey, I don't care where I go. I'm going to help the team win a Super Bowl. That's my end goal. Whereas Josh Jacobs might go, hey, I'm excited to finally be at the next level. Like, you know, I was too good for the college game. So it could be stupid. It could be a little corny. I don't care, but it's not going to be Josh Jacobs, right? It's going to be any draftable player. I want there to be a real draft stage. I want these players to get called out with the early picks, make the first round feel more real. Give us guys like Daniel Jeremiah and Rich Eisen on the stage cutting to the draft screen. Give us like a little intro. Welcome to the... And then they can record the audio 2026, 2027. That takes a second to record that. Boom, throw it in, and it can be the same thing every time. I don't care. Welcome to the 2028 NFL Draft. As these guys wait for their name to be called and see who will become a Hall of Famer and who will fade from the league. Say something, whatever. You can have even 3 different ones that they go to. Give us things to make the mode feel more real. I want it to feel more alive. I want other teams to make trades in the actual game. They pretty much never do that. It does happen from time to time, but pretty much never happens. You don't see blockbuster trades unless you make the trade happen. And I'll tell you what, I'm not involved in every trade, and the offseason's a huge part. If I'm running a team, you can only account for 2 teams at once making a big-time trade. There are 30 other teams in the league that could make big trades, and it never happens. And I don't want to see like a complete ridiculousness that you get in MLB The Show, where players are traded all the time and the value is ridiculous, and Mike Trout is traded for like 2 whatever prospects. But let me see some players get moved often. Wait it more for expiring contracts and aging veterans. And let's see those guys get moved around a little bit more the way it happens in real life. I want to make the mode feel more alive. And that's some feedback. I know it's a long, rambly, ranty style video. Those are some things that I'd be looking forward to in hopefully Madden 25, Madden 26. I'd like to see at least some of those things get in the game, if not everything. But that is unrealistic. We know how it works at this point. I do think Madden 24 is going to be better. I'm not going to say it's going to be the best Madden of all time, but the way I see it right now, they've added things that I think are going to make it more enjoyable for me personally to play in Madden 24. If you're skeptical, if you're anti-EA, don't buy the game. I do not blame you, but I'm going to be uploading it. Hopefully you watch. I would request that so I can have a job still. And I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.